Right, so I haven't made a review in a little while, but I hope this video is going to make up for that because I'm going to be reviewing 3 games, and they're all going on the review chart and everything. And they're all developed by the same company, or I say company, but it's one guy, at least as far as I know. It's one guy who's made all these games. And I played all 3 of them, and I think this is the only 3 games he's made. I think there's one other game he's made, but it got mixed reviews, so I kind of just, for whatever reason, I didn't play it. But I loved these 3 games a lot, so I thought I'd talk about them for a bit. But first, the developer is called David Szymanski, and I hope I'm saying that right. And he makes exploration horror games. And the thing that's similar about all 3 of his games, at least for me, the thing that really stood out was the fact that all 3 of them begin like sort of happy, or you wouldn't think it was a horror if you just played the first, say, minute of the game. But they all take this gradual shift into horror, and let me tell you, at points it can be really, really terrifying, and it's true horror. It's not jump scares, it's not crazy sound effects. Like, there's sound design obviously involved, but it's used in a way that adds to the atmosphere. Most of the time, I wasn't scared of a monster per se. I was scared of the environment. I was scared of the place that he had put me in. I was scared of what could hurt me. I was scared of the unknown, which is really what humans are most scared of. I think he does horror right, and I think he uses horror games in the way that they should be used. I mean, I don't say that very often because I don't want to say this is the way this particular genre should be just because I prefer it that way, but I think most people would prefer it that way if it wasn't just jump scare in your face. Well, those do have value. You can find value in jump scares. They can be entertaining, especially if you're in a group and you can laugh at each other and it's great, but it's really not great for a really terrifying experience, at least in my mind. Anyway, the 3 games are Fingerbones, which Fingerbones is free right now on Steam. Just go buy it and play it. I say buy. Go download it and play it. There's no reason for you not to. It's great. And if you enjoyed Fingerbones, buy the other 2. And I'm just about to get onto that. The other 2, called The Moon Silver and The Music Machine, are £2.79 in pounds in the UK as a bundle together, and that offer ends on the 7th of August, so hopefully this review gets out tomorrow, which for anyone watching will be the 6th of August. So if you're watching this on the day I uploaded this, then tomorrow is the last day that you can expect to get this deal. But I think it's totally worth it, especially if you play Fingerbones and you love it, because the other 2 are just like it. Anyway, I'm going to do little mini reviews for all 3 of the games. Going to talk about them in the order I played them. I happen to play them in the order of release. I would say if you think you're going to play all of them, I would say play them in the order of release, because you can see the progression where the developer, David, has changed his mind about certain aspects, about the art style in particular. Really, really sticks out in The Music Machine, and just other aspects of the gameplay. Fingerbones, and I never quite figured out why it was called Fingerbones, but I'm sure there's some really clever reason for it, is definitely the shortest of the bunch. You can finish it in 20 minutes, maybe even less than that. It depends how quickly you catch on to the puzzle elements, because while it's difficult to really call these games exactly games, I still would call them games because they have all 3 of them. They have puzzle elements in them. One thing that really stood out for me when I was playing Fingerbones was how nice it looked. Like, everything was pixely. The textures were muddy, but at the same time, the actual edges were sharp. And obviously there was some aliasing, but it was a really interesting take on pixel graphics. I really, really liked it. I was really amazed by the way he sort of managed to mix pixel style graphics with the normal kind of first-person 3D graphics you come to expect from more modern games. And of course, the orange light coming through the windows and hitting on like the floor in front and on the table, like it all looked really, really great. One little thing I've written in my notes that I thought was kind of cool: the way to exit the game is literally exiting the house. Like you go to the door and you exit, which was kind of a cool little immersive thing he put in there. But for me, maybe the most standout thing for Fingerbones, other than the story is great, you know. I've written so much of my notes like amazing 20-minute storytelling experience and stuff like that. You know, when I was excited when I just finished the story and there was like a little twist and all that. But really, the actual design, as in game design, you know, game design, was incredible. It was so intuitive the way everything worked, and it's hard for me to pinpoint one exact example. It might be because I didn't write anything about this down, which I now wish I did. But this is a running theme throughout the 3 games, is this guy knows how to make a game. This guy knows how to organically tell the player where he or she needs to go at what time, while at the same time giving them the freedom to explore however they like. As I said, the story's great, the writing's good and realistic and you know, all that, relatively clever, and the end caught me a little bit by surprise. I mean, maybe, I don't want to call it unpredictable, because maybe on another day I would have predicted exactly what the ending was going to be, what the revelation was going to be, but I didn't guess it, and I usually guess these things. I'm usually quite good at it. On the game chart, I'm putting Fingerbones below Nico and above Feist. It's below Nico by a fair amount, because Nico is a much more full experience. This does feel kind of like a tech demo sort of thing, even though he's not showing off any particular tech, but you know what I'm saying. But it's still better than Feist because it didn't make me want to throw my keyboard at the window. So, the Moon Silver, you can tell from the first game, from Fingerbones to this game, that he decided to take another approach. I prefer the art style in Fingerbones to this game. He did away with more of the pixely stuff. He went for a more Half-Life 2 kind of look. The art style feels really generic, which is a shame because the other 2 games have such distinct art styles. Like, if you see a screenshot of this game, you know it is this game. But for the Moon Silver, it just feels like it could be any, like, any first-person game. While I would say that Fingerbones is more closer to something like Gone Home, where you're going through a house or whatever, or going through an environment and reading notes, looking at the evidence in environmental set pieces, whereas this game is more like an interactive novel. And I know that already exists because you have visual novels, but it's different from visual novels because it's a lot more involved. It's certainly more tedious than Fingerbones because you're having to move around. There's no sprint button. It's an open island environment. And there are quite a few times where the weather will change or the environment will change a little bit, but it makes it almost impossible to see, so you have to rely on your memory from when the environment wasn't completely obscured by some crazy sandstorm. The other thing is that the text can be a little irritating. Just the way it works is you activate it in one spot, and when you move away from that spot, it fades away, but when you move towards it, it comes back again. It's just really odd. It doesn't work at all. And I feel like I've been pretty negative about this game, but we're gonna start talking about why I like the Moon Silver so much. It is absolutely terrifying. And maybe it's just me. People who know me will know that I'm a complete pansy for this kind of thing. I get scared really, really easily. Not really when watching scary movies, but definitely when playing horror games. But I was playing this game and I was shivering almost the entire time just from fear. And the ending in particular, and it's like this for all of the games, but this one in particular, the ending, I've written in my notes, ending gave me chills and tears in my eyes, so that's completely true. It's a genius ending in my opinion. That said, I'm gonna put the Moon Silver above Amygdala on the game chart and below Feist. It's better than Amygdala. I didn't like Amygdala very much at all, but Feist was frustrating, but it felt like it had, quite a lot of merit in it, and I think it's just below Feist, Despite the genius ending, I don't think it's a better experience than Feist, unfortunately, because even though Feist was infuriating, it had a lot going for it, and almost anything will beat Amygdala, so, But if that makes you less keen to play the game, know that it's just below Feist, and I did like Feist, so take that for what you will. And last, but certainly not least, is the Music Machine. This game is where the art style or David's signature art style really comes into the limelight. The visuals are single tonal, cel-shaded graphics. It looks great, and I'm always impressed when a small indie developer, and we're talking small indie developer here, we're talking one guy, can make a 3D first-person game look great, because that's always been the difficulty with it, right? Is 2D is much easier to render and make look nice, even if you don't have a lot of resources. But through a whole bunch of creativity, he manages to make this game look amazing. And obviously there are issues. There was a few times when the shadows would pop in and out, issues like that, but in general, the environments were beautiful. The Music Machine is closer to the Moon Silver in the way it is told, and there's like this text that comes up as you're moving around, but the text is less annoying because you can choose when to skip through it by clicking the mouse button. That said, it was still irritating at times because if you click the mouse button, the same button that you use to interact with objects, it would skip through the text when you're actually trying to click on an object in the world, so you couldn't really play the game and read the text at the same time unless you were just moving through the environment. But there were a few times when I wanted to hit a switch, for example, but there was this really long dialogue I had to go through, but I couldn't progress unless I pressed the switch. It was this clash, The Music Machine is, in my opinion, less scary than the other two, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do think the story is more full. Like, it's more fully realized. There's like real characters there. There were characters in the other two, but they didn't feel quite as well realized as the characters in the Music Machine. I think the actual dialogue was written better than in the other two games. That said, I think the overall plot writing isn't quite as good as Fingerbones, and I would say this about the Moon Silver as well. Fingerbones is a more grounded, simpler experience, and sometimes, just every so often, I felt like the Music Machine would try to be more than it is. In my opinion, there was no need for heaven and hell and God and angels and demons to be a thing. Like, you could have explained it in another way. You could have said that one of the characters is going through, like, I don't know, a mental disorder, and this is the way they perceive the world, or something like that. I thought that would be a much more effective way of telling the story, and I'm trying to say this without giving away too much of what the actual story is, because the story is good, and it's definitely original. So while the writing could be hit and miss for me at times, I do think this is the best of the bunch. I think it's just better than Fingerbones, just because it's it's like I've said a million times, it's a more full experience. Fingerbones is great, because of its length, and because there's not that much there, it just doesn't feel like it was as rich an experience as the Music Machine. Even if that isn't really true, that's how I feel. So the Music Machine will still go below Nico, but just below Nico. And it will go above Fingerbones. Nico has a lot more going for it. The story in Nico is nowhere near as good, but it does have that exploration feeling to it, and it does have a variety of environments which is similar to the Music Machine, but it's slightly longer. There's just more there for you to enjoy. That said, I kept flipping between this. I wasn't sure whether to put the Music Machine above Nico or below it, and I eventually decided on below it. Anyway, I loved these games. If you liked... Part of me wants to say if you liked Gone Home, then you would enjoy these games, but even if you didn't like Gone Home, I think there's still a chance you would enjoy these games. A lot of people I know found Gone Home boring. I thought it was okay, but this game isn't boring because it's got horror in it. And Gone Home, for me, the best parts were where you felt like there was something gonna kill you when really it was just like a nice little story. Anyway, whatever. See you next time.